All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about DJ Moore and him basically saying, listen, he wants to stick with Justin Fields as the quarterback. He wants the quarterback to be Fields next year for the Bears. So, basically he talked about how he thinks that Fields could be, is the best, in his eyes, is the best option for the Bears next season. The article that I was looking at, DJ Moore has dealt with a lot of quarterback changes. I mean, you go back and you look at, his time in Carolina. I mean, had Sam Darnold, you had Baker Mayfield, Kyle Allen, Cam Newton, P.J. Walker. I'm trying to think of who else. But yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of quarterbacks that DJ Moore had to, get the ball thrown to him from. And, now he gets traded to Chicago. He puts together a really good first season with them. And now all of a sudden, there could be a quarterback change. And, he doesn't want that. He definitely doesn't want that. And, I mean, listen, he's backing his quarterback. I mean, Justin Fields, I talked about last week that Justin Fields wants to stay in Chicago, but he knows it's a business and he just wants it all to be over. But, again, this is up to the Bears and what they're going to do. They're going to have the final say. But, yeah, DJ Moore, solid season with the Bears, his first season with the Bears, 96 receptions for 1,364 yards and 8 touchdowns. Played really well. I mean, even this year, though, when Fields got hurt, Tyson Bagent was the quarterback, during a couple games. So, pretty much on both teams, he's had to deal with that. But, and he also, he basically talked about the chemistry, with Fields. And, listen, he wants stability there. He wants, consistency. And, if the Bears end up trading Fields and bringing in a different quarterback, then he's got to start over and build a chemistry with the new quarterback. The Bears also do have another top 10 pick. Now, what they decide to do with that pick remains to be seen. They could add another weapon, which I've said that, if they're able to do that, because you have some wide receivers there that you could go with. He did mention Marvin Harrison Jr. as a potential draft target. Now, again, the Bears could take Marvin Harrison Jr. with the number 1 overall pick, and then, we'll see what they end up doing, with I think they have the 8th or 9th pick. I don't know if they're going to do that, but they probably end up, it's either they're going to trade Fields or they're going to trade the pick. But if they end up doing both, they should not do that. I think that would be silly to do that, but it's on the table. It's possible. But yeah, I mean, listen, I get where DJ Moore is coming from, but ultimately it's going to be up to the Bears. What are they going to do? Are they going to, they'll stick with Fields, or they trade they draft a quarterback? It's got to be one of those two things. It can't just be you're going to do both. But I mean, listen, they had a nice connection this year, and he wants to. I think they both want to build off of that. Going into next year. I mean, the Bears. Listen, they started off flat. I mean, it looked like they were going to finish with one of the worst records in the NFL, and credit to them, they ended up finishing the season 7-10. I think I might have said they finished 8-9 before, but yeah, they ended up finishing 7-10. Yeah, I mean, you start off. You lose to the Packers, the Bucks. You get blown out. This was a really ugly loss. Well, I mean, the Packers 38-20 was ugly, but losing 41-10, that was really bad. Then they had the lead against the Broncos. They blew that. But then they picked up their first one of the season. That's when things, I guess, somewhat started to turn around. And I think Fields then Fields got hurt the following week against the Vikings. But yeah, Fields had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. DJ Moore had 8 receptions for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was his breakout game. Actually, we'll take a look at all his stats from the season. Well, individual games. But yeah, I mean, The first game, 2 receptions for 25 yards, then got more involved, 6 receptions for 104, 3 for 41 in the touchdown against the Chiefs, 8 for 131 against the Broncos and a touchdown. Then, again, had 8 receptions for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Commanders. He put together a solid season. That was a good trade for the Bears. And listen, I think right now they're in a position where they could be a decent team next year. And I think really it's going to all come down to what ends up happening at the quarterback position. Because if they keep Justin Fields and Justin Fields goes out there and plays really well, or if they draft a rookie quarterback and he ends up playing well with the supporting cast he has around him, the Bears could be a team that's, I would say they could definitely compete for a wild card spot. And I don't think that's crazy to say, especially with how the conference is. I still kind of like the Packers. I still like the Packers, the Lions, and, if a healthy Kirk Cousins comes back, I like all those teams in their division better than the Bears. But, again, that's just me. So we'll just have to, again, wait and see what ends up happening there. But, yeah, who's to say this team can't compete for a playoff spot? They definitely can. If you can add another pass catcher to go along with DJ Moore, with Cole Kmet, and you got some decent running backs there with Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, I think this team and the defense was improving. This team, I think, can be, underrated next year. But, again, they finished the season strong. Well, except when they lost to the Packers at the last game of the year. But still, compared to how they started, they definitely looked like a different team. And there's definitely a couple of games that they lost to the Browns. That game they could have won. They did only lose to the Packers by a score. But, listen, a couple games could have went their way, and their record could have been better. But, again, momentum, it doesn't really carry over into the next season. Next year's a new year. So, they just can't afford to start off slow. Bringing back Matt Eberflus, this is going to be a big year for him. And, we'll see if, the Bears end up, taking the next step. But this is a really big decision that they have on their hands. Because you got the number 1 overall pick. And you got Justin Fields, who you could either keep or trade. It's, it's one or the other. So, and listen, I know Fields hasn't been, great. I would say he's a better runner than he is a passer. Because, the rushing yards, in 2022, he was off the charts there. But yeah, look, his 3 seasons, 1,800 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. 2022, 17 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, and then 16 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. And he missed some time. He played in 13 games in 2020. In 2023, 2022, he played in 15 games. He played in 12 games in 2021. I just want to look up the rushing yards. If I can find it, because I have his football reference page up. Okay, of course. But, that's the thing, though. Like I said, you look at his rushing yards, and, again, he was unbelievable, doing that. It's just, but you got to be able to throw the football, too. But, we'll see, what ends up happening. Again, it's a big decision that's coming up. Oh, yeah, so here we go. These are his rushing stats. So he had 1,100 yards rushing in 2022. He only had 420 rushing yards in 2021. And then he had 657 in 2023. He had 8 rushing touchdowns in 2022. So he, obviously he did miss some time due to injury. So that factored in. But yeah, I mean, 2022, he was, a lot of big runs he had. I mean, you go to a couple games. I mean, against the Lions, he had big runs. The Dolphins game, against the Lions. There are some games you can go back to where he really, had some big runs. But obviously, again, you want him to improve as a passer. And they went out and got DJ Moore, and that helped. But again, I mean, the touchdown to interception ratio is not really that good. You want to see that improve. But again, I mean, it could be elsewhere. He could go to Atlanta. He could go to Pittsburgh. He could go to, there's other teams that he can end up on next year. It might not be necessarily with the Bears. So, that's something that, again, is going to be talked about for weeks until something actually happens. I mean, again, I'm not sure what I mean, I guess, like, on one hand, it could be good from a financial standpoint because, again, you're, drafting a rookie quarterback. You have him under a rookie deal, for more years now, as opposed to Fields, who's, getting close to the end with that. Because eventually, you have to come to a decision on whether you're going to pay Fields if you end up keeping him. With a rookie quarterback, you're resetting the clock there. But then on the other hand, it's like, what DJ Moore's talking about. It's you already got chemistry, you got that rapport, and now you're gonna have to figure it out again. Which, I mean, again, I know it talks about how, he's been with a lot of different quarterbacks. I mean, this should be no different. You could get used to playing with the new quarterback. So, it's again, I know there's some adjustments that he would have to go through if they end up, changing quarterbacks, but you're gonna have to do it. If they end up doing it, because the Bears are gonna have the final say. And listen, it really is a big decision. But I mean, if you trade that pick and you get like a major haul for it, and you just continue to build around Fields. I don't know. I just feel like Matt Eberflus might not be the right guy. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, Fields, like, he hasn't been spectacular, since he, first started. Like I said, the rushing yards, that's been different. But, throwing the football, you want to see more. So, again, we'll just have to, again, that's just another thing that we'll have to, just wait and see on. But, yeah, so, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. DJ Moore talking about Justin Fields. Again, this is something that's going to be continued to talk about until the final decision, ends up being made. But, with that, we are going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about another quarterback, and that is Derek Carr and the Saints reworking his contract. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.